portion, and thank you so much, Marion, for getting us so beautifully. Oh, I've lost you now. Getting us so beautifully to this point. Folks, I can't see you, but can you just pick up your hand if you can see me on the big screen? Good. The Torah portion this week is the Baha'alotcha, and that literally means to light the candles or to light. And I'm going to just give you a brief glimpse of the entire portion. Aaron is commanded in the lighting of the menorah. The Levites purify themselves for service in the tabernacle. Remember, they're still in the desert. The first Passover is celebrated in Egypt. The Almighty instructs the Jewish people to journey into the desert wherever there's a cloud lifts from above the tabernacle, then they go on. And when the cloud lifts, in the camp rests. Moses is instructed to make 2 silver trumpets to sound before battle. So there we go. Now, right. It is in the Torah portion this week that really we see how honest our Tanakh, our Torah is, the 5 books of Moses. We do not attempt to make Moses or the people more or less than they are. And they are human beings. And in spite of having been miraculously taken out of Egypt, in spite of all that, in spite of the miracles that Hashem brought them through, they begin to moan. The manna is not good enough. Why can't they have meat? And so on and so forth. And it's really remarkable how everything that happens in the Torah narratives, we can see around us in the world. And never more clearly have we seen it than now, after a pandemic, which we're still partly in, a war in Ukraine and Russia, thousands of people dying. We're living in a world where really we aren't 100% sure what's going to happen tomorrow. We're living in a world of unbelievable uncertainty. And a lot of rabbis and people couldn't understand that these people who had left Egypt from slavery has had such an ungrateful attitude to Hashem and to Moses. And they really moaned and groaned and got terribly upset. So let's see what that means. And the people will be reading tomorrow from the Torah portion, and the people began to complain, speaking evil in the ears of God. Our sages describe the first transgression of the Jewish people as their attitude when they left Mount Sinai. The great medieval commentator Nachmanides, not Maimonides, Nachmanides. By the way, that Nachmanides and Maimonides also didn't agree on anything. Right, let's see what he had to say. He says, how could the people begin to complain as they did? It's like a child running away from school to say, oh, well, we don't need you now, before they've even received more commandments. So the famous biblical commentator known as Rashi, we all know who that is, describes the second incident. He says the Hebrew word misoninim means those who seek a pretext to complain. I think we all know a lot of people like that. Whatever's happening around them, they're looking to complain. Well, that's what our Jewish nation did. And so Rashi explains they were complaining about their arduous journey, saying, we have traveled 3 days without a respite. So this begs the question, how could this Jewish nation have been so rude, so ungrateful to Hashem and to Moses. So we must have a look at that. And it's very funny, but that really is the fate of a leader such as Moses, and even Hashem himself. Because surely Hashem needs us as well to complete his work. And can you imagine how lonely Moses must have felt? And because he felt so lonely and so rejected by these people, he turned to Hashem and he said, but why have you brought this trouble on me, your servant? What have I done to displease you? So now Moses is complaining to Hashem. Why did you put this burden on me? And I'm sure many of you have felt like that in your moments of life when things have gone down. And I know some of you really are facing challenges now. You didn't deserve it. If you did, you made a mistake. And now you're feeling fed up with life and fed up with yourself and fed up with God even. Why did this have to happen to you? And this is exactly what the greatest prophet in all of Judaism says to God. Why? He says, why don't you kill me and finish? If I've ever found favor in your face, in your eyes, kill me. Why must I see my own room? Why must I live now to fail with these Jewish people? How many of you have felt like that? Maybe that dark thought of even have come to me is saying, am I going to fail? And the answer is, we as Jews cannot think like that. And many of us with me tonight, I know you've thought like that. You've threatened to give up, to walk out, to do this, to do that. Well, have heart, folks. The greatest prophet in the world, Moses, in our religion, also had that moment of feeling sorry for himself. And yet he went on. And David, the great King David, I mean, if there is going to be a Messiah, and I prefer to think of a messianic age, whoever the leader is, put it that way, that messianic age is going to come from King David. And King David, he made every mistake in the book. Everything. You name it, he did it. And when he realized his mistakes, he did correct them immediately. And he sat in sackcloth and ashes. And he said to God, I'm worn out from groaning all night long. I flood my bed with weeping and drench my couch with tears. How long, Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? My God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from me in my anguish? Out of the depths I cry to you, Lord. So, and there have been other great rabbis and great prophets who also felt at times that they were failing, whether it was through their own fault or whether it wasn't. Sometimes when we fail, when we don't succeed as soon as we want, we do fear we may never do it. We blame ourselves sometimes. Sometimes we blame others. But the truth is that when you think of it, I mean, look at the prophets, Elijah, all of these people, Elijah, when Jezebel issued a warrant for his arrest and death after his confrontation with the prophets of Baal, he also said to God, listen, I'm sorry, I'm failing. I failed you and I failed me and I've had it. And yet, in their very agony, in their very solitude, when we feel we're not going to succeed, we do feel very alone. Maybe even in the Shabbat service, you feel alone. And maybe you're not succeeding at this moment in time. Maybe you've hit a great disaster, which is your own fault, maybe even, and maybe it isn't. And even if it is, we come from a tradition of the greatest prophets and a king that had the same thoughts and feelings as you and I, and yet God heard them because they survived and they did and achieved great things. But that is the beauty of our 5 books of Moses. And it's the beauty to me of the Jewish religion. So by telling us and being honest with us that these great prophets, and Moses was the greatest, and these great kings, they all had their setbacks. They all felt they were failures. They all said or did the wrong thing and suffered the consequences. They too felt like giving up. But the important thing is, like you and I, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem, we cannot, we will not. We will achieve in spite of the mistakes or in spite of the times it wasn't even our fault. But that's why we are Jews. So these figures cried out to God from the depths of their setback and loneliness, and God answered them. He didn't make their lives easier, but he did at least let them know they weren't alone. And when you listen to that small little voice inside you, that's why you've even taken the time and effort to join us tonight on this Baha'alotcha Shabbat. You know that that voice of God is with you. That yes, your friends may desert you, family may desert you, even committee members may desert you, but you are never, ever alone. And I believe that. I believe that is the very essence of faith in our Jewish religion. So out of their very loneliness, that was the time they came closest to Hashem. So we'll see, even in the next chapter, God comes to the defense of Moses when Miriam and Aaron are complaining about him, etc. But let me actually conclude. And just to say that it's, as we speak these words tonight, as I share these thoughts with you, we don't know really what's going to happen to us tomorrow, the next day, next week. We don't know when that so needed job is going to come. We don't know where we're going to find extra, perhaps, financial resources. Maybe we don't know how we're going to face the next doctor's appointment. There are so many fears in our lives, including in mine. The future of our beautiful temple, Israel, Hillbrown, all of us. But let us all, including me, and I'm with you in this, take courage that Hashem didn't let down one of these wonderful prophets or the king or anyone, because we will never be totally alone. It'll come. We just have to hang in there and not even think, as Moses said in that moment of humanity. It's not weakness. Why don't you take my life? Many people say sort of, oh God, do I have to live through this? What's the point of going on? And yet, Moses went on. Elijah went on. We all go on because Hashem is part of each and every one of us. Shabbat Shalom. Back to you.